Hey, welcome to the channel Do You Know? Today, friends, let's talk about the so-called alternative archaeology. People tend to look for vivid and entertaining explanations for archaeological finds incomprehensible at first glance that do not fit into the usual scientific picture of the world. For such, they came up with the name undefined artifacts. This is the name for objects whose origin cannot be explained from a point of view of the chronology of evolution or the development of technology adopted by the scientific community, often of unknown purpose. Some of them remain a mystery to scientists or cause doubts for many decades, or even still have no explanation. Here are some examples. London Hammer. For Max and Emma Hahn, it was a summer day like many others. In 1936, the Texas couple took a hike along Red Creek near London, Texas, a tiny community located in the center of the Lone Star State. But the hike was like no other the Hahns had ever experienced. Not because of the weather or the beauty of the landscape, but because they discovered a strange piece of wood encased in what seemed to be an unusual formation of rock. Of equal interest to archaeologists, the London Hammer posed a scientific dilemma. What could possibly explain how a modern instrument was encased in ancient, prehistoric Ordovician rock from between 65 and 135 million years ago? The physical facts of London Hammer are as follows. The hammer measures at 6 inches in length with a diameter of 1 inch. The metal is made up of 96.6% iron, 2.6% chlorine, and 0.74% sulfur. The iron head has not rusted since it was discovered in 1936. There is much debate surrounding the London Hammer's origin that remains unanswered. Was the artifact hit by a meteorite that formed around the tool? According to what is known about the chemical composition of a meteor, the formation's composition would seem to discount this theory. Some counter this by asserting the existence of an ancient advanced civilization that left behind tools eerily similar to those of a more modern era. And what do you think? Chaco Canyon. Today, Chaco Canyon is one of the best places in the US to view the stars. Modern-day visitors can stargaze in the same place where ancient peoples had lived and thrived for hundreds of years, without light pollution interfering with the view. The ability to see stars so clearly from this 10-mile canyon also fascinated the Anasazi people long ago. An elaborate civilization flourished here between the years 850 and 1250 AD, consisting of numerous multi-storied stone buildings that were carefully constructed in alignment with the cosmos and cardinal directions. Although the canyon had been inhabited for roughly 400 years by a highly intelligent and sophisticated tribe, its residents vanished without a trace. To this day, no burial grounds or graveyards have been discovered in this isolated canyon, and researchers remain puzzled by the sudden disappearance of the ancient society. Archaeologists aren't the only ones who are interested in this prehistoric civilization and its ancient observatories. NASA has been investigating Chaco Canyon for roughly 40 years. Why would a government agency that's focused on space exploration have such a vested interest in these ancient ruins? Is it possible that they believe there's a connection between Chaco Canyon and space travel? Do you know? Indiana Jones is not a good role model. He does everything that real archaeologists fear. In the name of science, he collects items belonging to indigenous peoples. This is immoral and illegal. 10,000 years old skeleton in Mexico. A pair of divers discovered the eerie underwater grave of a woman with a deformed skull who lived on Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula 9,900 years ago, making her one of the earliest known inhabitants of the area. Vicente Fito, and Ivan Hernandez first found the woman's remains in September 2016 while diving in the Chan Hole cave near Tulum, prompting an international team to get to work analyzing the mysterious skeleton, dubbed Chan Hole 3. While the skeleton is only about 30% complete, the researchers were able to discern that it belonged to a woman who stood roughly 5 feet 4 inches, 1 meter 64 centimeters tall, and was about 30 years old when she died. Sinkhole caves in the Yucatan Peninsula have so far unearthed 9 skeletons, including a teenage girl who has been linked to modern Native Americans, and implies that humans had already reached this far south 12,000 years ago. The traditional view is constantly being turned on its head, and now many alternative researchers are pushing the timeline of human occupation of the Americas back in time tens, if not hundreds of thousands of years. How much we still don't know about our history. Ancient Greek machine. Scientists have finally demystified the incredible workings of a 2,000-year-old astronomical calculator built by ancient Greeks. A new analysis of the Antikythera mechanism, a clock-like machine consisting of more than 30 precise, hand-cut bronze gears, show it to be more advanced than previously thought. So much so that nothing comparable was built for another 1,000 years. This device is just extraordinary, the only thing of its kind, said study leader Mike Edmonds of Cardiff University in the UK. Quote, "The design is beautiful, the astronomy is exactly right. In terms of historical and scarcity value, I have to regard this mechanism as being more valuable than the Mona Lisa." End of quote. The team was also able to pin down the device's construction date more precisely. Radiocarbon dating suggested it was built around 65 BC, but newly revealed lettering on the machine indicate a slightly older construction date of 150 to 100 BC. The team's reconstruction also involves 37 gear wheels, 7 of which are hypothetical. Pieces of the ancient calculating machine were discovered by sponge divers exploring the remains of an ancient shipwreck of the tiny island of Antikythera in 1900. For decades, scientists have been trying to figure out how the device's 80 fragmented pieces fit together and unlock its workings. Previous reconstructions suggested that the Antikythera mechanism was about the size of a shoebox, with dials on the outside and a complex assembly of bronze gears within. By winding a knob on its side, the positions of the Sun, Moon, Mercury and Venus could be determined for any chosen date. Newly revealed inscriptions also appear to confirm previous speculations that the device could also calculate the positions of Mars, Jupiter and Saturn, the other planets known at the time. Who could have built such a unique machine at that time is unknown. Nazca lines. From the ground, the Nazca lines of Peru are nothing spectacular. However, seen from the air, from which they were first spotted by a commercial aircraft in 1920s and 1930s, they are staggering. Archaeologists agree that the hundreds of enormous shapes, ranging from geometric lines to complicated depictions of animals, plants and imaginary figures, were made over 2,000 years ago by people of the pre-Inca Nazca culture, who simply removed the red surface pebbles to reveal the lighter earth below in designs of their choice. Just why they did it remains enigmatic, prompting conspiracy theorists to float ideas about alien landings and ancient astrology. The lines were more likely to have been a ritual communication method with the Nazca's deities, say archaeologists. So who, after all, aliens or humans, drew it? Write in the comments. Do you know? Machu Picchu was once the royal estate of Pachacuti Inca Yupanqui, the 14th century Inca ruler. The large complex covers an area of approximately 126 square miles, 326 square kilometers, and includes walls, terraces, houses, and several temples. Hobbits. Some scientific discoveries are truly stranger than fiction. Case in point, the 2003 discovery of hobbits on the remote Indonesian island of Flores. No, scientists didn't stumble upon a real-world version of the Shire, but they did uncover the bones of the petite ancient hominin Homo floresiensis, which they quickly dubbed the Hobbit. The first Homo floresiensis skeleton ever discovered belonged to a 3.5-foot tall, 30-year-old adult female. At first, researchers believed the diminutive bones may have belonged to a human with microcephalia, a condition characterized by a small head and a short stature. But later discoveries of a similarly sized skeletons suggested that the Hobbit isn't just a tiny human, it's its own species. Yet, Homo floresiensis' exact place in the family tree of hominins, human ancestors, is still a mystery. It looks like Tolkien's books is not entirely fiction. The Giant of Castleknow. The expression Giant of Castleknow refers to three parts of the incredibly large human skeleton: the humerus, the tibia, the femur. According to scientists, the finds were located in a Bronze Age burial mound, possibly dating back to the Neolithic era. According to the archaeologists who worked on the excavation, the skeleton found may belong to one of the largest people in the world whose existence was ever known. According to the size of the bones of the skeleton of this large man, scientists have calculated that he could be about 3.5 meters tall. One of the largest human skeletons in the world was discovered by anthropologists Georges Vaz de la Pouge in a Bronze Age cemetery in Castelnau-les-Lez, France in the winter of 1890. Bone volumes were more than twice the size of normal skeletal parts. Judging by the usual spacing of anatomical points, they were also almost twice the length of the normal skeleton. The bones of the Castelnau giant were studied at the University of Montpellier and examined by Professor of Zoology M. Sabatier and Professor of Paleontology M. Delage, as well as other anatomists. In 1892, the bones were carefully examined by Dr. Paul-Louis André Kiener, professor of pathological anatomy at the School of Medicine of Montpellier, who admitted that they were a very tall race. So the giants did exist! Did you enjoy these facts? Suggest your topics, write comments and your thoughts, and don't forget to like this video. Each of your likes, comments and channel subscriptions motivate us to make more interesting content and delight you. See you soon, friends!